The rage on Broadway right now is a play called Floyd Collins. The star is Jeremy Jordan, a great actor who's nominated for Best Actor in a Musical. Happily, we've had him on Personally Speaking. And before he became the rage of Broadway, he was also talking to us about what it means to be a father, what it means to be a dad. Stay with us on Personally Speaking.
Hello and welcome to Personally Speaking. I'm your host, Msgr Jim Lisante, and the multi-talented singer and actor Jeremy Jordan joins me now. Jeremy is best known for starring in the CW hit series Supergirl. His film roles include starring opposite Anna Kendrick in The Last 5 Years and starring opposite Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah in Joyful Noise. On Broadway, he originated the role of Jack Kelly in Disney's hit musical Newsies, which earned him both Tony and Grammy nominations. Jeremy made his Broadway debut in Rock of Ages. Jeremy is married to actress Ashley Spencer, and together they're parents to their young daughter, Clara Eloise. Jeremy is premiering an emotional and intimate show called Carry On, which is part of 54 Below Premier's streaming series. He's here with us today to tell us more about that, as well as about fatherhood, about being married, the values that mean the most to him. Joining me now, I'm so pleased to welcome to Personally Speaking, Jeremy Jordan. You know, before we go to our interview with Jeremy, let's listen to a preview from his new concert. Here's Jeremy singing Carry On.
But oh, I've arranged my life to chase that line I'm saying this is my rainbow, and it's hard to see sometimes a rose they lead you back home, but I know I'm not going that way, so I carry on, I carry
First of all, I want to thank Jeremy Jordan for being with us. For our listeners and watchers around the country, I've had the privilege of seeing Jeremy in movies and television and on the Broadway stage, but there's nothing like seeing Jeremy in concert. And at 54 Below, I've had the privilege of seeing him several times. Jeremy, you have a streamed concert called Carry On coming on. Can you tell our watchers and listeners, what is Carry On, what went into making it, and how do people get it?
Yeah, so Carry On is it started out back in I call it pre-pandemic Eve, basically. I did a live show at the studio at 54 Below in New York City. And it's kind of like a hybrid cabaret one-man show kind of sort of thing. And it's a show that I wrote basically about my daughter. She's 2 now. At that point, she was like 8 or 9 months. But it's sort of just exploring what it is to sort of come into fatherhood and how that makes you sort of drudge up and try to reconcile all the issues of your own childhood and try not to pass all that baggage onto your kids.
Right.
And so there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of heartfelt stuff, a lot of really personal stories. And just try to be as honest and truthful about what being a father was like and has been like for me in the early years and months. And there's a lot of great music in it. This sort of spans the whole gamut of music. I mean, there's Broadway, there's pop, there's rock and roll, there's some singer-songwriter stuff, there's some country, there's stuff that I wrote. So it's just a lot of fun, really personal. And yeah, we premiered it last night, actually. And it went really well, and people seem to really be connecting with it. And I think it's available to stream for at least a few weeks.
Good.
You just go to the 54 Below website and type in my name, and that'll be there, Jeremy Jordan.
That's great. Jeremy Jordan is our guest. Jeremy, I want to go with what I call the Derek Jeter question. When Derek was a guest,
Okay.
I said to him, you have this amazing gift, a great ball player, successful, popular, loved by people. But every American kid wants to be a successful baseball player, and you got it all. So why would God give all these things to you? And he said, I don't know, but I'm not going to ask him. I don't want him to change his mind. In the same way, Lisa, my producer, and I were talking beforehand, you're not only this incredible actor and storyteller, but you're also, Jeremy, an incredible singer who interprets like nobody's business. Do you have any idea why you were given the gifts that you were given and how you're supposed to use them?
I mean, I don't know if it's really up to me to decide why. It's more about how I sort of go forward. So my sort of outlook on things is like, how can I continue to grow and use that growth to make myself and the people around me and the people that I can influence better, you know? And so with every sort of project and every sort of thing that I take on, I try to find things that I can grow from, whether it's something that I'm learning. And there's always some sort of personal growth, you know? I grew up under not the best of circumstances as a kid. So I have had to learn about, you know, how to handle things and how to deal with things and unlearn a lot of that as well. You know, I unlearn about, you know, how I put up walls and how I sort of, you know, pack things into a box and put them in the back of my mind and never deal with them. And those are things that, you know, as you get older and new experiences come to you, they begin sort of rearing their heads. And so, you know, in the past, you know, especially since I've been a father, but, you know, past 5+ years, you know, instead of learning new things, for me, it's more about unlearning things. And then because I have the ability to communicate those lessons with people in a, you know, interesting and, you know, hopefully compelling way, then it becomes not only, you know, personal growth, and it becomes hopefully a gift to others out there who are willing to listen and willing to take those and apply them to their lives. You know, this show specifically, I wrote as a sort of therapeutic thing for me to sort of deal with some of the things that I had never dealt with in my past. Right. And once I wrote it and performed it for the first time, it was like, it was out of me, you know, it was like, it was kind of out into the world. And then I had to keep doing it, you know, for like, it was like a 2-week run. And now I've done it again. And after the initial sort of letting go of it, it very quickly became apparent to me that the purpose of it was to have other people learn and grow and find things that they could, you know, use in their own lives, and hopefully get inspiration for change that they can make in themselves going forward. And that's the sort of secret sauce, I think, to performance and to, you know, or at least for like a good night at the theater, you know.
Okay. Jeremy Jordan's our guest. We're talking about his show, which is being streamed by 54 Below, Carry On, and about his general career. Let me ask you, Jeremy, so many people in the arts are hesitant about taking the leap of faith it takes to marry somebody. You chose to marry Ashley. Most weekends when I do weddings, I ask people to write me an essay on why of all the people in the world, why is this the one? In light of the riskiness of the arts and the fact that you're both in the arts, was it much of a decision to decide whether or not you would marry her? And what is so special about Ashley that you said of the billion women out there who might have married Jeremy Jordan, why is she the one?
Well, at that point, I wasn't Jeremy Jordan. I mean, I was, but I wasn't that, you know, like I was still very early in my career. And, you know, I never really looked at the world as like billions of women, you know, or billions of potential partners to choose from. It was just like, what's in front of me, what is here, what makes me feel good, what feels right, where is my sort of heart leading me. Yeah. And, you know, early on in our relationship, Ashley and I were very different. And we had, some moments of sort of not impasse, but where we didn't understand each other. And, we're still always understanding each other more and more, but there was something that in past relationships, I would have been like, yeah, this isn't working out, like this is not, for whatever reason, we're too dissimilar or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there was always something that kept drawing us together, and we would find our way out of that and grow from it and sort of forge a deeper connection because of those moments of, disconnection or failed connections. And I think it was that sort of kind of clued me into the fact that this was something different. This was something special. This is something that I wanted to hang on to and continue to explore and grow from. And, we're still growing and exploring and changing and becoming better every day, every year. And, it goes up, it goes down. And, the reason that I chose her is because of the way she made me feel, and because of the sort of, she was kind of like a yin to my yang, that kind of a feeling. Like we complemented each other in a lot of different ways. And I think subconsciously, even if I didn't fully know it at the time, because I was, we met when I was 23.
Yeah.
And I think I was young. No, maybe 24. And it was 24. And, we had a lot to learn from each other, and we still do. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can find someone that you can always continue to learn from, Jeremy, it's going to be interesting. Yeah. Sorry.
Part of that journey for you and your wife is the creation of Clara. We had a while back the wonderful actress Victoria Clark on, and one of my questions I remember for her was, she has Thomas, her son. Do you worry about him? And she said, every time he walks out of my apartment, I'm scared for my child. And I just wonder, in the same way, is it a risky business to bring a child into the world? How do you protect them? How do you teach them the right path? And was there much thought in terms of, this is a dangerous world, I'm going to love this child, but I'm going to fear for them too? Or have you told Clara, by the way, that she's not allowed to date men till she's 40?
Sure, but she doesn't understand that yet. She's only 2. I think that's another reason. That's another way in which my wife and I are different. She has those sorts of like really built-in protections of like her, thinking about the world and like how it could be this. And I tend to be a lot more trusting, sometimes to my detriment. And so I'm trying to learn how to be wary, but in the right way, and not without compromising my, positive or at least hopeful view of the world and what it could be. So for me, it was more like, I can bring this person into the world. There was a selfish element of it, in which not like a legacy element, but like someone that is always going to love me no matter what. And have that feeling that maybe I never really felt 100% as a child, and give that to me. And then I can give that to somebody, and maybe I will have made something right. But that's a small part of it. I think it was just always, I just always loved kids, and I loved their energy, and I loved the sort of rawness and the openness and the sort of unbrokenness of them. Yeah. That, tends to happen later on. And I guess I never really let myself think of the fact that eventually this child is going to have to deal with the real world. And my show talks about it a lot. The show Carry On that I just released talks about, making those discoveries of, this is a real person that's going to have to face the world in a very real way one day. And what are you going to do, or what can you do if you can do anything to protect her?
Yeah. And part of the real world, as you know so well, and every actor does, is the experience of disappointment. So many actors who've been on our show have said, I went out for this part. I knew I was perfect for it. I had all the talent and abilities and didn't get it. Jeremy, you've been very successful in so many walks of the arts, but like any actor, anyone in creative life, there are times when you were perfect and didn't get something. How personally do you deal with disappointment, rejection, the heartbreak of knowing that it might have been something that was perfect for you, but it didn't happen? What do you do with that?
Well, it's a muscle that we're constantly sort of growing and regrowing and losing and regrowing. And, when I first came out, it's always really difficult in the beginning, which is why a lot of people who set out to become actors drop out within a couple of years, because the rejection is inevitable. I mean, there are very rare cases in which people don't get much, if any, rejection, but the vast majority of people are going to get told no 10, 100 times more than they're going to get told yes. And it's just because there's only one person for each job, and they're a whole bunch of people coming in for each, and you're just doing it over and over again. And because it's an emotional business, we're investing part of ourselves into these characters and allowing ourselves to dream and put what if scenarios ahead of us. And as I've gotten older, the less that I do that, the more successful I tend to be. And not just successful as in getting the part, but successful in not having to deal with the pain of rejection. You learn how to just do it and recognize that's what you did that evening. You got ready for this thing, went for that audition the next day or put it on tape or whatever. And then you went about your day, and it was just something that you did. It's just something. And if it manifests into something great, and generally the less energy you put into expectation, the better. So it's really an exercise in modifying and limiting your expectations, because so much of it is out of your hands. I mean, it's ludicrous how much of it is out of your hands. So you got to just do your best and then just leave it up to the other powers that be. There are rare occasions where, you might be able to have some sort of influence on the outcome. If you get a call back, or if you can, make a personal, write a note to the director, or but those are rare and far between. And it's never easy though.
No,
it never gets easier.
I want to talk about you referenced before the upbringing experience of, I believe, Mom, Debbie, and this is Mother's Day weekend, so we'll talk a little bit about her, had the Jewish background. Dad was more of a WASP. Any spiritual upbringing, any culturally or otherwise, was being Jewish or being Christian any part of the journey for you guys?
Not particularly. It was actually really interesting for me as a child, because I grew up in South Texas, which is pretty heavily Christian, but also heavily Catholic. Yeah. And I didn't know much about God or religion or anything, except for what I heard from my friends. And as kids, we take bits and pieces. And then, so I took the bits and pieces that the kids understand or didn't understood, whether it was something positive or negative, and then they pass it on to me through whatever lens that they were filtered. Right. And so I only got sort of glimpses of it. And it wasn't a big part of our upbringing. We actually would celebrate all the holidays, the Jewish holidays and the Christian holidays. And it was just, it was kind of that American, right. Modern American thing where it's just an excuse to celebrate and have presents and eat things and have family gatherings, which is great. Yeah. But, I remember when I got to high school, I started having a lot of crises of faith in which I feel like I need something. I need to know what my faith is. And what I would do, because I was a teenage boy, is whatever girl I liked, I would be like, well, that's what I want to follow, whether it was the Mormon girl or the Pentecostal girl or the Hindu girl. It was just what's this? Oh yeah, this has got to be it. God, well, if I'm going to have a life with this person, I might as well, I really need to follow this sort of. So I went down that road for a while, and yeah, so it was a little bit tough. Then as I got older, I sort of carved out my own path and my own sort of, road to spirituality. And in a way, it was scary at the beginning because I didn't have any guidance. I always felt like I was given the moral lessons that generally religion and spiritual stuff teach, but I was never given the specifics. And so, yeah, I felt lucky in that I was able to create my own ideas of what I thought faith and belief and purpose and all that stuff was. But it was an interesting journey as a kid.
Jeremy Jordan, one of his films he made was with a woman who's kind of, even though she's not officially a saint, people treat her like she's a saint. That's Dolly Parton. Having worked with this, is she as good as they say?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago, but I can't imagine she's changed in a negative way. She's just one of the kindest people I've ever met.
Isn't that great? That's a great thing to be able to say about anybody, that they're kind, and boy, we need that in the world. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of the thing, like, you're not going to meet much of a bigger star than she is.
Yeah.
But she would give anybody in the room the time of day, as long as they were allowed access to her. Right. But, she had long conversations with my family when they came to visit and started calling, because I played her grandson. She's like, oh, look, it's my daughter. So she talked to my mom, and I just thought it was the sweetest thing, and just really kind and just incredibly unearthly talented. So, humble about it at the same time. So it was a great example for me from someone to see someone at a young age when I did that. Yeah. Someone famous and like the right way to be that.
Okay. I want to ask you, we were talking about this before the program about the looks challenge and aging challenge. You're blessed with the voice and the acting and the look and all that stuff. But as you know, we're living in this kind of crazy culture where we worship youth and looks. When you're aging, and if you're not aging, you're dead. All of us age. When you go through the experience of saying, okay, in 10 years, I'll be this age, 20 years, I'll be that age. Are you intimidated by the aging process, or do you welcome it?
Oh gosh, I don't think about it too much, except during COVID, I started to get grays in my beard. But yeah, so I'm 36, and I still get told that I, look a lot younger than I do, especially when I have shaved. And I do, I've always looked a lot younger. So it's been interesting so far, playing younger and still getting to lean into the youth roles. But I don't think I'm quite ready to accept getting to play the older characters yet. But I think I'll be fine with it. I mean, I've always felt older than I looked. And so I think it'd be comforting in a way to at least somewhat match how I feel in physical appearance.
Jeremy, with all the gifts and talents that you have, I was wondering, obviously you work on those even in times when you're not on stage, but especially with the pandemic having been behind us, how do you use downtime?
How do I use downtime? Right now it's all about my family. It's all about my kid. This whole pandemic, it's been full-time dad, full-time parents mode because we've mostly been out of work. I mean, I've done a couple of projects here and there. I've tried to focus on being creative. I write a little bit of music, and I've been trying to write, some other forms of thing. I wrote a pilot that just for myself. Okay. And I'm writing a screenplay. So it's like, I'm trying to be creative in that way. And, I rewrote this whole show, Carry On. And so that was I had to do a lot of reworking of it because it was, a year later, and I didn't have an audience. So I was speaking directly into camera, and we wrote some new numbers. So, it's been there. But it's just been sort of navigating parenthood and fatherhood and what that means. And, my kid's getting old enough to where she's going to start going to socialize with other kids now. And it's going to be a new chapter when, we pass her off to a daycare or preschool. So, it's really been super family oriented, especially now.
I promise I'll wrap this up with this one. When I saw you in Newsies on Broadway, standing ovation from the crowd, and then the stage door routine for people, people immediately put guys like you up on a pedestal because of your talent in a show. When you're getting that kind of adulation, Who in Jeremy's life is there to just keep you grounded, remind you that we're in the end sharing the same humanity, and not allow ego to get the better half of our nature? Who in your life, throughout your life, has done that for you?
Definitely my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very much that for me. Like, she's not gonna, lay it on thick.
Mm-hmm.
She's in the business, so she's not, she doesn't have stars in her eyes when, something is, great. I mean, she'll let me know when she does think something is wonderful, but like, I can always count on her to keep my head and my feet tied to the ground.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. I mean, it's something to navigate, especially when you have it coming from all over the place. And it's hard sometimes because you start to get all this outside validation, and you forget that the real validation has to come from within.
Yeah.
And you want that balance, right? And so you want to also have validation from your partner, but you don't want that validation to be overshadowed by validation of total strangers, on the internet, on social media, because the second that happens, you give it power. And if you give any positive sort of affirmation power, the negative affirmation from that same source is going to have equal power.
That's
and
right.
so when you're in a committed relationship with someone that has that equal power, that's one thing, because you know that they love you and you know that they're there and they're supporting you. But it's when you give total strangers that equal power, it can be very risky in terms of your psyche and your happiness. Yeah.
I want to thank Jeremy Jordan for being with us, and great talent. I hope folks get to see him in movies and television, on stage. But importantly today in this interview, I hope what came across to our viewers and listeners is the normalcy of Jeremy Jordan. That he's down to earth. He says it like it is. What you see is what you get. There's not a lot of pretense there, which is a delightful thing. Jeremy,
Thank
much
you.
success to you as dad, as husband, as actor. But thank you so much for your goodness and being with us. And carry on, folks. I just want to suggest, please go on. 54 Below has a streaming service that connects with a concert by Jeremy Jordan called Carry On. He's brilliant in it. And please be a part of the family that supports the wonderful talent that is Jeremy Jordan. Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
As we end today's program, I want to thank you all for being with us. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them to me at personallyspeakingpodcast@gmail.com. To listen to past episodes of Personally Speaking with Msgr Jim Lisante, you go to YouTube and search under Personally Speaking with Msgr Jim Lisante. Don't forget, please, to click the like and subscribe buttons. You can also get past episodes by going to www.closeencounteredtv.com and clicking on the radio button at the top of the page. I'm privileged to serve as host and executive producer, Personally Speaking. Our producer is Lisa Jandovitz. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be with you again next time on Personally Speaking.